Mike, Beast you. Good morning, young people. It's good to see you all here this day. As it was said, my name is Sespuch. My name means white belly in Ute. My great great grandpa had a big white birthmark on his tummy, and that was his Indian name. And I don't have that birthmark, but he did. And so that name comes down generation to generation. My Indian name is Ipage. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm 64, and I can still run a couple miles easily, still do a lot of things younger people can do, so I'm very happy with that. I'm told I'm going to be around for a long time, so I'm a storyteller. I tell my stories in film, play music, and do these kind of things. But it's all in telling stories. Everybody has a story. My name, Sespuch, comes from around Montrose. Y'all know where Montrose is over in Colorado? Our people pretty much occupied Colorado and Utah. And when the Spaniards came, they were the first non-Indians, came into Ute country around 1600. They called us Utah, Y-U-T-A. And it eventually became the name of the state here, Utah. So it's named after our Ute people. And when the Spaniards came, they brought with them the horse. We call it pretty much the same that they did, Cuba. And that was a wild Mustang. And the wild Mustang was very appropriate for this area, for the sagebrush and for us short Utes. For most of us, we're short, except our younger generation, they're pretty tall. And we were relocated out to the reservation where I live now, which is just over a couple of hills over on the UNN Ute Reservation. And we're the second largest reservation next to the Navajo Nation in the States. We occupy 3.5 million acres. But that's a drop in the bucket when you figure we've lost Colorado and we've pretty much lost Utah. All of our Utes that lived on the Wasatch Front were also relocated over on the reservation. So that's where we are today. Every tribe, they have their stories that talk about creation and how they came to be where they are today and what they do to exist. Well, our Ute people are the same way. We have our stories, and these are passed down. We never wrote anything down. They were passed on generation to generation. My grandmother told me these stories, and so I've remembered them. And in today's world, a lot of our younger people don't know those stories to tell their kids. So I'm grateful that I'm here to pass on those stories. There's something in these stories for each of you, and you take that knowledge with you today to use it to do good things in this world. Our creation stories begin with Sanoy. He's the creator. Can you say his name? Sanoy. Sanoy is a creator. And in the beginning, there was nothing. And Sanoy was a great thinker of Sumai. So he was thinking one time, and he snapped his fingers. And when he did, there appeared light. And he began to talk to this light, saying, Muyet Davach, you are the sun. And began to tell it of its responsibilities. And every day you will come up, and everything will come to me through this light. And when he finished, he put that sun over his right shoulder. Now he could see, but there's nothing to see. So, as we know, Davach, the sun, can be pretty hot sometimes. So Sanoy created rain and snow. Called him Kumui. Can you say that? Kumui. Rain and snow. Rain and snow. And he took the rain and snow, Kumui, put those over his left shoulder. Now everything was just right. Nice and cool. He was happy about that. But Sanoy wanted more. Sanoy wanted to create Mother Earth. So he has a magic staff and he begins to cut a hole to the heavens. And he works on this hole for a long time. And when he had finished his hole, he took the contents, dropped them through, and he took that rain and snow, rain and snow, put those through the hole. And he did this for a long time. Finally, he was curious what's in the hole. So he steps through the hole. And he was standing on snow-capped mountains, pretty much like the mountains here during the winter. And everything was very cold and desolate. And he didn't like that. So he tells the sun, Davach, shine to this hole. And when it did, it began to melt all the snow and the ice. And they turned into rivers and streams that eventually flowed into the ocean. With his magic staff, he breaks off a piece and he puts it in the water and they turn into fish and they swam away. He takes his hand or his staff and goes all across Mother Earth and everything turns green. And he goes around and gathers leaves of all different kinds from the different trees, making magic. He blows on them and they turn into birds of all different kinds and fly all over the world. With his magic staff, he created all the animal people, and they got along pretty good. Everything was in harmony. Until he creates, come on, honey, Yagovich, coyote. Can you say its name? Yagovich. Louder, Yagovich. Yagovich is a trickster for many tribes. So Yagovich used to always create chaos and problems. So he'd go around to the animals and he'd say, hey, those other animals are talking bad about you. And the animals looked at the others, hey, what are you saying about us? And he'd come over to the other animals and he'd say, hey, they're talking about you over there, and it's not good. And these animals said, hey, don't be talking about us. And all of a sudden, all the animals began to fight. And every time Yakovich creates chaos, his tail wags crazy and he runs away. Well, there was fur and teeth and feathers flying everywhere. And Creator comes back and he sees all this and says, no, 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 this won't work. So he creates Guyagat. Can you say his name? Guyagat. He says, Quiogit, I would like you to be the leader of all the animal nation. Will you do this for me? Quiogit says, yes, I will do that. Yes. So ever since that time, Quiogit has been the leader of all the animal nation. When Coyote gets rowdy, he just sets on Coyote. Coyote's legs just flop around and he can't get out from underneath. How do you say its name? Quiogit. Well, the Creator created the Wutch, whom we do weep, Mother Earth, and all the animals, species, but he wanted more. His intention was to create human beings. So he has a magic bag, and he begins to go around the earth, gathering twigs from all different trees. The black mambo, the Russian olive, the Chinese elm, and the cottonwood. And he puts them all in the bag. And he does this for a long time. And the Creator gets tired, Sanoy. Oh, wee, I'm tired. So he decides to go take a rest. And who do you think is watching all this time he's doing this? Yakovich. Yakovich is very curious. What's in the bag? What's in the bag? So he comes, takes a sniff, and the bag begins to move. And he hears all kinds of sounds coming from the bag. Now he's really curious. What's in the bag? So he has a stone knife. And he cuts the bag. How many of you have stepped on an anthill? What happens? All the people start coming out. And Coyote tried to put them back in the bag. And there were so many people. He freaks out and runs away. Well, Sanoy came back and seen his bag was empty. And he knew who had done what. He seen the hole in the bag. He was bummed. He reaches inside the bag. There's only one more group of people. And it's the Ute people. And he says, Mwiget, Dovach, Mwiget, Nuchu, you are Ute people. Mwiget, Chichige, you are strong. And we'll be able to defeat all the rest. So I'm going to put you high over in the Rocky Mountains, high in the Uinta Mountains, and high in these Wasatch Mountains. And that's how we became known as mountain people. Pretty cool, eh? Well, Creator was still bummed at Coyote. Coyote, bake it. Come here. So Coyote came with his tail tucked between its legs. And Creator was upset. And he says, Yabovich, I had plans to put people equally all over the world. But because what you've done, now they fight over everything. So every night, you're going to howl to the moon. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. How many have heard coyote out there? Yeah, still paying penance. When Creator decides to make life, everything has a purpose. Takes Mother Earth, to weep is what we call it, and water. Make mud pies. This is all the plant people, all the animal people, and all us human beings. Everything has a purpose in this life. He blesses us with a mission to accomplish something here. And He blesses us with gifts to be able to accomplish that mission. Each one of you, especially these ones who will be here performing today, have been blessed with something special. Never want for somebody else's gifts because you have your own. You already know what you do better than anybody else. That's your gift. Use it. Learn to use it. It'll take you anywhere you want to go. The last thing the Creator does is blesses us with part of our spirit, of its spirit. And Sanoy is not only male, it's female and animal. So it blesses us with part of its spirit. And spirit moves with breath. When we take that first breath in this life, as babies, that spirit entered our body through this soft part of our skull. We call that a bewagat. And it's like a little AAA battery, weighs about the same amount. But it's what keeps our heart beating throughout our life. And hopefully we realize what those gifts are and we use them. Eventually, the day will come where that heart will stop beating and that spirit will leave its body again to that bewagat and go back to the Creator, back to the circle of life where all energy comes from. Some call it heaven. And this body, we return that back to Mother Earth. That's why Native people say, all my relations, because we're all the same. We come from Tuwip and Pa. Pa is water. We're 85% water, and the rest is just minerals. Sanoy wanted a way to show us how we're all related. So he gave us this medicine wheel. This medicine wheel circle is the circle of life. This is where we all come from. These feathers are represent all the animal nation. And the hoop is made out of red willow. And all nations of the world are in this circle. You have the yellow man to the east, the red man to the south, the black man to the west, and the white man to the north. All nations are here together. We call that Nanama. Can you say that? Nanama. Together. And that's the way the Creator intended us to be. Nanama. Our word in Ute for thank you and goodbye are one and the same. Daweak. Thank you.
Hey, haspis nak siltet. Inna squeeze sinkalip. Has at Wikinchin. It's been a long time since I've seen you. Are you guys enjoying this crazy world you're living in right now? Let's do some time traveling. Why don't we? Let's think of all of this. Leave that behind, that little square box. Put that to the side. Let's take a little journey. Way back when. Let's go back in time, way back into this world before there was human beings here, before there was Indians here on Tumhulau. Let's go way back, even before Walmarts, even before those Indian casinos. Let's go. Now we're back into this time, back into this prehistoric world. Breathe in. Don't you love that prehistoric air? This is beautiful. We think of all of our relatives. Long time ago, Nikum Kosapi, there was a world that was here before this world. In that world, the animal people, they were here. And they were enjoying this world. They were loving this world. They were just doing whatever they wanted, but they began to be disobedient, quit listening. And they did all sort of things. Creator wasn't happy with them. So he sends me down. Sinkalip. You're going to destroy these monsters. There's people eating monsters everywhere. I try to create these human beings, and these monsters just keep eating them. So I want you to go down there and take care of these monsters for me. Why? Hast. So he sends me down here, and I take care of these monsters. But we need the people. Creator, Kulinchutin, he loves these people. He wants to take good care of them. So he talks to the animal people, the chiefs, the Skemhuist, the Intitiich, the Speetlum, the Sia, those that grow under the ground and those grow up. These are the chiefs. You take care of these people. These are your relatives. You help them. So these chiefs had to think, how can we take care of these people? How can we help them? So they decide to offer their lives, lay their lives down, and all of the animals that follow them, that they are the chiefs over, we will give our lives for these people, for food, as long as they come back and honor us with the tobacco, with gifts. They only take what they need, and they always give appreciation. We will teach them our songs and teach them how to heal each other and be well. Oh, yes. So long as they come back, every year, these people will have ceremonies and honor you, take care of you like that, and you'll keep coming back and feeding them. So every year, these people have to take care and recognize and honor the animal people. And these people created placed here and there. You put the Dene down there, Yarila. He goes and puts those Blackfeet over there, okay. He puts the Crees over there, Tanse. And he puts the Kalispels over there, not even. And the Coeur d'Alenes, and that. Why, all these ones he put here with lot of love and responsibilities. They have sacred sites. You will take care of those sacred sites. You will take care of that water. You will tell our stories of the animal people, the things that we learn. We teach you how to be brave and the values of life, to always remember these stories because we are related. Last night I cried several times in doing this. It was that powerful and meaningful to me. So thank you. So I honor our relatives, our ancestors. My relatives, Isquis Kikowa, grandfather, the ancestors. We lived here in this land, in this world. The history books will not always tell you the truth of things that have happened. American history begins with Native American history. We've been here on this land, and we lived by the teachings that the animal people gave us in our culture and our tradition. We had advanced agricultural system. Everywhere we traveled, we had food, we had respect. We had respect for one another, took care of one another. That's how we lived. It was a beautiful life because we followed the sacred laws that were placed here upon Tumkula to live. Suyapi, the white people, have only arrived here at this land 200 years ago. And at that time, they were amazed by the salmon, the NTTE that came up the Columbia River. They thought they were so plentiful, they could walk on the backs of salmon all the way across the river. Well, now, if you go up to Swaniku, there's no salmon. There's dams, and there's Tektamiko, different minings up there. So there's poison in that river, and you could only eat a couple salmon without risk, high risk. So there's been a lot of changes here, a lot of changes. So my relatives that we have come, live peacefully, never give up, and always understand that we have responsibilities to this earth. Hinmatuya Lakekt, Chief Joseph was a great humanitarian and great tribal leader who only wanted good things for the people, as well as all the chiefs and all the warriors. They would put their life on the line to protect their children and families. They came for our resources, the gold, the silver, the trees, the buffalo, the beaver, all these different resources that they came for. So they wanted this land, and they started to remove these Indians here from their land. But they fought. They fought. Us warriors were willing to give our lives for our people. There was no great Indian wars. We didn't want war. We only wanted to live here in peace on this land that we were created. These children, these grandparents, they couldn't fight. So we had to do what we had to do to protect them. So we had to move to the reservations. We lost all that beautiful land, our hunting land, all that beautiful place over there by the water. This land is the Spokane land right here that we're on. My relatives, this was really hard, but we wanted to save the children for the future generations. And they came, they changed their laws to come and get these children, to take them away. So they created what was called boarding schools. Take these children and they take them by force and violence. They didn't want to go, but they took them. You Indians, how come you dress like that? Take these off. Cut that hair. Don't speak your language. Don't look Indian. Be ashamed of who you are. So our people, our children left us, and they had many questions. Many of them never made it home. They lived a very violent life. Many abuses happened, and our children did not come home. And some of them hated us. They think that we didn't love them. And they left us, and they traveled on. Our children, we love them. We want good things for them. So we're going to put this medicine under here, under these rocks. When they're ready, they'll come back and they'll get this medicine. This to take care of them. And the spirit here, just like that buffalo at the Yellowstone, that if you come up on him and you get silly, well, those Indians, they got that same spirit too. They're going to protect themselves and be strong. We want our Indians to always have that warrior spirit. We want what's good for them. We love our children. Why class? I'm glad to join you today here in this class. My name is Thunder and Lightning. Children, I'm really pleased. My great-great-grandmother, her name was Chamissimus Morning Dove. She was the first Native American female author, and she wrote our tribal legends. So they still live today. Me, I'm honored to carry on this legacy, to learn our stories and to share them with the youth, so they will never be forgotten. Our people, I want to introduce you to the Young Warrior Society. Right here, the Young Warrior Society is education from the spoos of warriors and storytellers meant to inspire greater things to come. This is indigenous-led, land-based education. My relatives, my people, we have many things from nature to help us to learn. So these things in life, we see the beauty in life and how we look, but the world don't see how smashed we are from assimilation and genocide, the loss, the things that have happened to our people, the things that continue to happen with the violence and racism, all the hardships that happen to our youth, those that are on the streets, those who live in poverty, those that live with sickness and illness, those that suffer from the missing and murdered indigenous women, the land that are destroyed from toxins and chemicals, all the things that happen. We have no organic foods on our reservations. A lot of us, we come here tattered, and the world sees us tattered. They don't see us as beautiful unless we're wearing all of these things. But each one of us has that same spirit. Within us always resides that sacred path, that sacred connection, that good red road. So when people come together, help one another, just like the fires, all these people support one another, these strong people, like the people that came to Standing Rock and help one another at the time of unity, all the people that help all the ones that they bring in, the Indians, to come and help with the school, with the education, them are healing. Our women who will run for Congress and have our voice out there to this world, our people who are creating changes and healing and breaking the cycles of violence and learning our culture and our education. We become brand new and beautiful. We see this beauty. We see the beauty within us. We look around and see our brothers and sisters to the right and left with all colors. One day, when our children of all colors walk together as one, there'll be a very beautiful time on this earth. I raise my hands. I raise my hands and thank you to all those who stood behind us and made this happen. Na'a ilhahi, the potlatch, front and center, and all these beautiful water protectors and warriors who continue to stand and to rise and stand for the earth and honor our ancestors, that we could call upon our ancestors and always know that they will come and be with us at any time that we need them. We use this tobacco and give thanks to our Tumhulach and to the land and to our ancestors, that they come and be with their children, that we could go forward together in a good way and give gratitude for this beautiful life, and that we can continue going on with a good heart. Lemnim Crater, White Peace, Naksil, get lived, Lemnim, all my relations. We are all related. Thank you. And this song here is to honor each and every one of you as we go forward in humanity, go forward in unity. And this song's for everyone to lift our spirits up, to enjoy today and feel good, happiness that we're still alive.
I'm the youngest of 5 in my family. There's 4 boys, including myself, and then there's my oldest sister. She's 17 years older than me. What's wonderful about having a 17-year-old, or a sister who's 17 years older than you, is she feels like she can speak to you like she's your mother. And whenever she tries to do that to me, I remind her that for the first year of my life, she actually wasn't around. She was in Germany on an exchange with her high school, and my mother sent her videos of me doing adorable baby things. And she thought it would be a good idea to record over them with MTV music videos. So I love my sister. My 3 older brothers, I grew up completely and utterly in their shadow, and I loved it. They were all good at sport, all talented, all good at school, all did really well. And as I was growing up, I thought, far out, being their little brother is pretty amazing. Ko ahau, tētahi o ngā rau, kua taka mai te puhi kai ori o te nehe nui, no Ngāti Manipoto ahau. Tina koe matua, tina te mihi ki a koe mo tō iwi hoki, ngā rātou I toka tui mua te raupatu o tō whenua, ko Bastion Point, kaue e wareware, maumahara, kia ora koutou katoa. My name is Trent Hohaya. I'm really privileged to be in front of you here today to speak about something that I'm deeply passionate about, and that is the repatriation of traditional Māori learning methods into the homes of whānau across Aotearoa, oral storytelling. Because I believe that through storytelling, what we're able to do is find identity in the present and then better navigate the future through connection to the past. So that's what I'm going to be exploring with you guys all today. I was born and raised in South Auckland in a place called Takanini. It's between Manurewa and Papakura, and I loved it. Growing up in the south side, all the different cultures, all the different people, different languages, different kinds of food, all those things. I loved being from South Auckland, and I thought, far out, being from South Auckland is pretty amazing. Did all of my schooling in South Auckland. I wasn't always the best student. Like on my report, it used to say things like Trent is a distraction to other people in class. And I feel like that's more on them than on me. Nevertheless, it was written. But I always did really well at school, and school kind of came really easy to me. I was always at the top, if not near the top of pretty much every class I was in, which really surprised me because I'm Māori. And all throughout my life growing up, I knew, although no one ever explicitly said it to me, that being Māori and achieving academically were separate things. That they couldn't be the same thing. And I thought, you know what? It's probably because I'm only half Māori. So the other half of me is probably the smart half. And being Māori can't be smart. So I had this conundrum. Actually, I was this conundrum. Here I was at high school, talented, capable, achieving well, incredibly good looking. Yet I was Māori and had this idea that, man, this can't be me. So either I'm not Māori or I can't be intelligent. And it shook me. And I began to deny who I was. I remember this in English class. There was a movie called Utu. It's a really good New Zealand-made film. And there's a scene which scared one of the girls in class. And I'm really embarrassed by what I said to her. But what I said to her when she got scared is I said, don't worry, Māoris aren't real. And you laugh, but honestly, that was my identity about myself for years. This thought that who I was some relic. As I graduated high school, a year after I graduated, I went overseas. First time in my life. First time I've been away from my family for more than a week at a time. And I thought, this is it. I'm going to find out who I am by traveling the world. I'm going to find my purpose in life. And unequivocally, wherever I went, people asked me, where are you from? I was frustrated. Traveled all the way around the world to discover who I was, and people kept asking me where I'd come from. And so I said, as they kept asking me this question, I started asking it of myself, actually, where am I from? I knew I was from South Auckland. I knew I was Māori, but I didn't know a whole lot else. And the things I used to identify myself actually had very little to do with me. They were all about my family. While I was traveling, I went to London to visit my oldest brother, who still lives there. He's coming home next year with his wife and his new baby. I'm really excited. And as I visited him, I stayed with him for about a month. And on one of the nights, we went to a pub, because that's what older brothers like to do, take your little brother to the pub and teach him the facts of life. I wasn't aware that my brother knew those facts, but clearly he thought he did. And as we're sitting in the pub, we started talking, and we ended up talking about our family. And I had what I can only call a revelation. My revelation was this. For the first 19 years of my life, I'd been a worse son to my family than they deserved. As my brother and I started talking about the sacrifices and the contributions my parents had made, not just to me, but to all my siblings, I started to understand myself in relation to their sacrifice. What does this call out of me? Man, I'm the inheritor of these acts. My father left a six-figure sum job to teach my brothers how to play rugby, to coach their team. 6 figures. And he left it. My father's the kind of man who will fix things you don't know are broken. My mum is the kind of person who will figure out that you're the one that broke them and then go tell your father. And I love my parents. So after this conversation, I came home. 2 jobs. 1, discover who I was. 2, become a better son for my family. So I enrolled in university because I thought, far out, they've input so much into me that I need to, particularly my mother, but also my father, put so much into me to prepare me well for academics. The least I can do is achieve well for them. So I signed up to university. In the first 2 years, I was on the Dean's List of Academic Excellence, reserved for the 2% highest achievers in the faculty, regardless of your year. I received the Māori Academic Excellence Award 2 years in a row, and I achieved an A average my entire time at university, never getting anything less than about a 90% on anything I submitted. I don't particularly care about grades. I don't see, personally, but I knew that what I needed to do was work hard for my mother. But the funny thing that happened was, I was at the top of all these classes I was in, and I heard comments like this. Oh, it's really good to see a Māori boy at the top of the class. And while these were well-intentioned, what they served to remind me was, man, academic achievement and being Māori are not the same thing. If you're Māori, you're unlikely to achieve here. And I thought that by doing well, maybe I'd change the stereotype. But actually, what amazes me is that I perpetuated the stereotype because I became seen as abnormal, exceptional, that it wasn't normal for Māori to do this. So actually, I wanted to come closer to my identity as Māori. And by doing well, I was going further away from it. And my identity crisis persisted. Who am I if these things are happening? A couple of years after I graduated university, I was staying at a marae in Golden Bay in Tauranga. And I met a man named Marcus Akuhata Brown, and he told me a story. He told me the story of how in the 13th century, Polynesian navigators, my ancestors, using their depth of connection to the environment, to the understanding of the flight patterns of birds, ocean currents, and starlight, using all those things to navigate to arrive in Aotearoa here today. Now, the navigation of the Pacific Ocean by my ancestors academically was thought of as a mistake. There was this idea called the Great Wave, which is racist in its simplicity. The idea was a lot of Polynesians were out in their waka, and a great wave just happened to sweep them from Micronesia all the way down to Aotearoa. And I remember this because it made me angry to hear that. And then I heard a sentence that I'll never forget because it's a sentence that's changed my life. As he was telling the story, he said this. Jared Diamond, a prominent academic, was asked at a conference, what is the greatest achievement of mankind? Is it the curing of polio? Is it the 1960s civil rights movement in South America? Is it the putting of a man on the moon? Is it the fall of the Berlin Wall? And he said, unequivocally, without a doubt, it is the navigation of the South Pacific by early Polynesian explorers. The idea that they stumbled upon Aotearoa is as likely as finding a speck of dust in the eye of a needle, the needle in a haystack, the haystack in a paddock, 1 hectare wide, full of haystacks. And something in me shifted. Suddenly, achieving great things and being Māori were no longer separate. In fact, they'd never been separate. But these narratives had dominated my idea of what it meant to be who I was. And through connection to story, I was able to find an identity in the present and understand my purpose moving forward. Much like when I spoke to my brother in a pub, understanding my parents' sacrifices, I found purpose and began to act. And that's what I'm passionate to talk to you all about today, is the power of oral storytelling, connecting to your culture, my culture, everyone's culture's history in order to understand identity in the present and navigate the future well. Yes, that's what I'm here to talk about. So after I heard this, I just fell in love with oral storytelling traditions. And I wanted to understand, what is it about these things that helps ground us in identity? What's the functional aspect of this? This year I've started a social enterprise called Tau Tito Tito, which means to compose verses in unison. So the idea is two people singing the same song, making up the words at the same time, which I think is beautiful. And as I started this, I wanted to understand, the function of these things. And these are the things that I learned. Storytelling is relationally developmental. Maya Angelou says it like this. People will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. The act of sitting down with someone, not taking photos of your coffees, not checking your phone to see who else wants to hang out, the act of sitting down with a person face to face and sharing stories, we have no idea the capacity our attention has to affect the lives of those around us. Words create worlds. Storytelling is not just descriptive, it's prescriptive. So this is the basic idea of advertising. If you repeat a message enough, it becomes truth. So the narratives that affected my life and will affect some of your lives are repeated enough that they become true. So advertising, the basic premise is, buy this product and you will be better off, or don't buy this product and you'll be worse off. Now those ideas, hearing those once or twice a day, that's fine. But if we continue to hear these ideas that talk about our self-worth degrading without something, thousands of times a day, repeated every day for the entirety of our lives, that begins to do something, because storytelling is prescriptive. It creates worlds. Words create worlds. Oral storytelling gives knowledge a soul. So the reason some forms of esoteric knowledge of Māori and Samoan, Tongan, Polynesian, Fijian, and many other cultures around the world have survived thousands of years of migration and colonization and all of the other things they've survived is because it had a face. There are countless books. I always hear this from first years at university. Oh man, I hate learning theory. And I think there's people that have written these theories that sat with other people, sent letters, communicated face to face, and this is their life's work and we hate it because there's no face to it. That's one of the reasons sometimes theory can just be boring. But this is perhaps the most important thing I learnt. So the Māori word for story is pūrākau. Pūrākau is a compound word. The first word, pūtake, or base, foundation. The second word, rākau, tree. So when we talk about our stories, what we're talking about is the base of our trees, the roots. Now, if you know anything about Māori, the Māori creation story, often called mythology, wrongly, Tāne Mahuta wanted to separate his parents, Ranginui and Papa Tuanuku, because he understood that for there to be a world of light, he needed to separate his parents, who were in perpetual embrace. So great was their love for one another. He talked to his siblings. Some of them said, yeah, bro, let's do it. Some of them said, no, don't make mum and dad mad. But he resigned himself. He said, no, we have to do this. And he lay his back against his mother, and he put his feet against his father, and he began to push. And as he did so, he separated and created the world we have today. Our word for story is base of the tree. Tāne Mahuta is the atua, the god of our forests. So for Māori, when we talk about stories, our pūrākau, our roots, we're literally talking about the things that created our world, that give our world shape. No wonder connecting to these things is so important. No wonder we can find identity in connecting to the past through story. Yeah, no wonder. Thank you. Oh, so why is this all important? What's the point of oral storytelling? What's the value? Why do we need to know this stuff? Currently in Aotearoa, we have the highest suicide rate in the developed world. Our young men, and our young Māori men specifically, are 1.5 times higher than the national average, have a 1.5 higher likelihood to commit suicide than the national average, which is already the highest in the world. We have high rates of domestic violence. We have huge rates of infant mortality. We are an increasingly isolated generation. We spend less time face to face with other humans than at any time in history. Any time in human history. These things are creating an identity, I believe, that is born out of disconnection, not connection. We're seeing mental health rates rise, and part of that is because mental health we're getting better at diagnosing it. But part of it, I believe, is because we have generations growing up not understanding their connection to the world because they're connected to temporal things that are not based in anything that's had enduring, lasting contribution to the world. And it's not right. Those things happening in our country, I think we all just believe they're not right, no matter how you slice it. And they're intricate problems with different causes and different ways of solving them. But all of us know that those things are not what we want our Aotearoa to be. There's a tree called the kahikatea. It's a native tree to Aotearoa, and it has no taproots. Taproots are the root systems that dig deep into the earth to provide stability for trees so that when faced with challenges from the wind, rain, sleet, snow, earthquakes, that they can remain strong, and our trees don't have them. The kahikatea has existed since the Jurassic period, so it's got good at surviving. And the way it's done that is it's learnt to intertwine its roots with other kahikatea around it and other trees. It's pūrākau, it's stories. Finding stability through connection to others. Alone in a field, a kahikatea is vulnerable to the shifting of the earth, the shifting and moving of the wind, the rain. But connected, finding relationship with others through sharing of story, our forests can remain strong. The Māori word for forest is ngā here. Ngā means many, or plural. Here means connections. So when we looked into the forest, what my ancestors saw was the mutually beneficial, mutually dependent, interwoven, interconnected relationships that were able to sustain the diversity of life. Oh, cut it out. That's what we saw when we looked into it. And it's easy to see in Aotearoa today, with the problems we have, it's easier then to understand the health of our forests. Relationally, who are we sharing our stories with? What value do we place on the roots that we send out in relationship to others? Or are we standing alone in the field? Is that why so many of us are falling? I'm deeply passionate about this stuff. I love it because I believe that the problems we're facing today are the result of disconnection. But I have this dream. What will it look like in 100 years if the next generation of young Māori, but of young people in general, are surrounded from birth, from cradle to career, with stories that affirm who they are, tell them that they're relevant, meaningful, capable, talented, purposed with greatness, and that being whoever you are, and for me being Māori, is not a burden, but it's a gift. I believe that through connection, through understanding ourselves, not in isolation, but through connection to the past through story, like I understood myself and hearing the sacrifices of my parents, causing me to find identity and then move to enroll in university and do all those things and achieve well there, finding connection to the past, giving meaning to the present, helping us better navigate the future. Who might we be if our identity is not based on just who I am, what I wear, what I do, the things I like, but if we send out our story, we send out our connection to others, that we might achieve stability relationally with all of us. Don't know how many of us there are in this room, but all of you, as Rez said, have a story. Don't doubt the power of your own story. What's interesting about a forest, about a ngahere, is that trees aren't made strong because they are strong. They're made strong because of their relationship and connection to others. The kahikatea has survived it's from the Jurassic period, 180 million years. Long-term, intergenerational, transformative change is possible through connection to relationship. Nō reira, tēnei te mihi kia koutou katoa, kua taimai ki tēnei, hei whakawhānui o koutou hiningaro me o koutou hiri ka pō. Thank you all very much.
I was only a child when I first realized the power of words. And the word became flesh. That statement has biblical proportions, and it is the foundation of the faith that I stand upon. But to me, it communicates the true essence of the fact that there is power in words, and the word became flesh. What can be uttered can become a reality. A thought or an idea that can be formed in a word can become real. I turned 5 years old when a minister of a PIPC church, the Pacific Island Presbyterian Church of Otara in South Auckland, invited me to the front of the church. And the whole congregation celebrated me with words. Manuelo asofana usala. Manuelo asofana. Happy birthday, Salah. You are blessed, Salah. Oh, you're cute boy, Salah. You're so handsome, boy. You're a good boy, Salah. All these words made me feel special. They made me feel like I was somebody. Those words, they made me feel loved. Until the following year, the ripe age of 6 years old, my dad, my brave father, the first of our whole family to migrate from Samoa to Aotearoa, New Zealand, in the late 60s even, gave me my first hiding, my first ever beating. Looking back now, I understand that he was frustrated trying to sustain funding our family back in Samoa, but literally everything around him was getting more and more expensive. So he was getting more and more stressed. Therefore, he was getting more and more frustrated. And he would turn to the bottle, to alcohol for stress release, which only really heightened his frustrations. And he would eventually lose control of his emotions.